The engine of the luxury Mercedes cut out in front of the convenience store at the gas station. Arthur Sterling stared at the illuminated dashboard, took a deep breath, and reached for the door handle. Another day, ending in emptiness, just like all the others. A soft knock on the glass. He turned his head slowly. A little girl was holding a bouquet of white roses, slightly crushed by the heat of the day. She couldn't be more than 10 years old. She wore a worn-out school uniform, sneakers with holes in the toes, and her hair was pulled back in a crooked, messy ponytail. But it wasn't her impoverished appearance that sucked the air out of Arthur's lungs. It was her face, those dark, deep eyes, the delicate curve of her nose, the exact way her mouth curled into a tired, shy smile. Arthur gripped the steering wheel with such force that his knuckles turned white. His hands began to shake uncontrollably. The girl knocked on the glass again, gently insistent. "Sir, would you like to buy a flower?" That voice pierced through the closed glass and hit a place very deep in his soul, a place he had sworn to forget forever. It was impossible, simply impossible. Emily had been dead for 10 years, the baby too. He had seen the official documents. He had signed the death certificate with his own hand. He had buried them both at the same funeral ceremony. But that little girl... She tilted her head to the side, with exactly the same gesture Emily used to make when she was losing patience. "Sir?" Arthur squeezed his eyes shut, trying to breathe evenly, but he felt a weight of tons on his chest. He unlocked the door with slow movements and stepped out of the car, unable to tear his gaze away from that small figure. The girl took an uncertain step back upon seeing this imposing man get out of the vehicle. "I'm sorry if I scared you, sir. It's just that it's getting late and I still have some flowers to sell." Arthur opened his mouth to reply, but the words got stuck in his throat. He stood there, frozen on the dirty pavement, looking at her like someone watching a ghost materialize in broad daylight. "Are you feeling okay, sir?" He blinked rapidly, trying to return to reality, and cleared his throat. "Yes, I'm fine. I'm sorry. How much are they?" $5 each." She lifted the bouquet with hope. "But if you take 3, I'll give them to you for 12. Arthur slid his hand into the pocket of his tailored suit and pulled out his leather wallet. His fingers were still visibly trembling. Opening it, he saw only large bills, 50s and 100s. "How many flowers do you have in total?" The girl looked toward the cheap plastic bucket leaning against the station wall. "About 20, more or less." "I'll take them all." She widened her eyes in disbelief. "All of them?" "All of them. But, sir, you don't even know if you have space in the car to—" "It doesn't matter." He handed her a $100 bill. "Keep the change." The girl didn't take the money immediately. She stood staring at the bill, then at him, with an expression that was a painful mix of mistrust and something resembling pity. "Have you been drinking, sir?" Arthur almost laughed, but the sound came out strangled. "No, I need those flowers." "What for?" He didn't have a logical answer. He kept his hand extended, waiting. The girl sighed with resignation and took the money cautiously. She tucked it into the pocket of her school backpack and went to get the bucket. She returned carrying everything with evident difficulty, but refused help when he tried to approach. "I can manage." She set the bucket on the ground right between the two of them and began separating the flowers with care. Arthur crouched down to be at her eye level, not caring that his expensive suit was touching the greasy asphalt. "What is your name?" "Isabella." She didn't look up while she worked. "But everyone calls me Bella." The name landed on him like a slab of concrete. Emily had told him one dreamy night that if they had a girl, she wanted to name her Isabella. "Do you live around here, Bella?" "Over there." She pointed to the end of the street with her chin. "In a small house near the old church." Who do you live with?" Now she stopped and looked him straight in the eye. "Why do you want to know so much?" Arthur took a deep breath, seeking calm. He needed to control the tremor in his voice. "Just curiosity. I apologize if I was being nosy." Isabella went back to arranging the flowers, moving slower now. "I live with my grandmother. It's just the two of us. And your parents?" "My mom died when I was born." Her voice dropped a notch but remained steady without breaking. "I'd never met my dad. I don't even know who he is." Arthur felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. He had to grab his knee tightly to keep his physical balance. "I am so sorry." "It's okay. Grandma Rose has always taken care of me really well." She finished tying the flowers with an old piece of twine. "There. Do you want me to help put them in the car?" "No need." He stood up slowly, his body feeling heavy, took the bucket, and walked to the trunk. He put everything inside without even looking at how it was arranged. When he closed the lid and came back, Isabella already had her backpack on her shoulders. "Thanks for the purchase." She offered him a shy half-smile. It was the best sale of the week. "Wait." She stopped in her tracks. Arthur walked back to her, trying to organize the thoughts running uncontrolled through his mind like wild horses. He couldn't just let her go. Not now. Not like this. "Your grandmother, is she in good health?" Isabella twisted the strap of her backpack, nervous. "Why are you asking so many questions?" "Because I want to help. We don't need charity." The way she said that phrase, so firm, with such dignity, made Arthur swallow hard. She wasn't even 10 years old, but she already knew how to defend herself against the world. "It's not charity, I just want to do something good today, a good deed." Isabella remained silent for a few interminable seconds. Then she let go of the backpack strap and crossed her arms over her chest. "My grandma is sick. She needs medicine that costs a lot. I sell flowers every day after school, but it's not enough to pay for everything." "What kind of sickness?" "Her heart. The doctor said she needs surgery, but we've been on the waiting list for the county hospital for months." Arthur reached into his pocket again and pulled out an elegant business card. He wrote something quickly on the back and handed it to her. "This is my personal number. Call when your grandmother needs to go to the doctor. I will pay for everything." Isabella didn't take the card right away. She looked at him with that innate mistrust of someone who has learned the hard way not to trust anyone. "Why?" "Because I can. Nobody does that for free. I do." He left the card in the girl's hand, insisting even though she didn't grip it firmly. "You don't need to call me now, but keep it. When you need it, call." Isabella stood looking at the white card, then at him. The expression on her face changed subtly. There was still suspicion, but something resembling hope was trying to break through. "Are you a CEO or something?" "I am." "And don't you have anything better to do with your money?" Arthur almost smiled again, but the lump in his throat wouldn't let him. "I do, but none of that matters as much as it should." She tucked the card into her backpack pocket, with slow and careful movements. "I'll think about it." "All right." Isabella took 2 steps back, adjusted her backpack, and gave a slight wave before turning around and starting to walk. Arthur stood motionless, watching her disappear at the end of the street, a small figure under the streetlights that were beginning to flicker on. When she vanished from his sight, he went back to the car, dropped into the leather seat, and sat with his hands gripping the steering wheel. Her face, her voice, her age, 10 years old. Everything matched, absolutely everything, but it was impossible. It had to be impossible. He started the car but couldn't bring himself to move from the spot. He stayed there, breathing deeply, trying not to fall apart while the world spun too fast around him. Arthur arrived home 2 hours later. The mansion was dark. It always was. He entered, tossed his keys on the entryway table, and went straight up to the master bedroom. He didn't turn on any lights. He knew every step by memory. In the walk-in closet, he took off his suit jacket and tie, with mechanical movements. He sat on the edge of the king-size bed and stared into the void. The house had 12 rooms. He used 3. The phone rang. It was his secretary's number. He silenced it without answering. He got up, went to the dresser and opened the bottom drawer. Underneath the perfectly folded shirts, there was an old, worn-out shoebox. He took it and went back to the bed. He opened it slowly, as if it contained explosives. Photos, dozens of them. Emily laughing on the beach, Emily in her wedding dress, radiant, Emily 7 months pregnant, her hand on her belly and her eyes shining with happiness. He picked up that last photo and held it with extreme care, as if the paper might tear just by being looked at. 10 years. It had been 10 years since that cursed night. The accident had happened on the highway. A truck drifted into the oncoming lane. Head-on collision. Arthur was driving. He walked away with a few superficial cuts. Emily went straight to the hospital in a coma. She died 3 days later without ever waking up. The doctors said the baby hadn't survived the trauma. Arthur signed the papers. He buried them both together. He never questioned anything. He never had the strength to question. He built his business empire as an escape. He worked 16 hours a day for years. He became a benchmark in the industry. He won international awards. He multiplied his wealth tenfold, but he always came back to an empty house, no photos on the walls, no noise, nothing to remind him that one day this was supposed to be a home. He looked at the photo of pregnant Emily again. Isabella's face appeared in his mind, sharp and clear, those dark eyes, that way of tilting her head. Even the tired smile was identical. 10 years. The age matched perfectly, but it made no sense. The baby had died. The documents were signed. The death certificate existed. Arthur put the photos away and closed the box. He put it back in the drawer and walked to the bathroom. He washed his face with ice-cold water, gripping the marble vanity with desperate strength. When he lifted his head, he saw his own reflection in the mirror, deep, dark circles, grey hair at the temples, 42 years old, looking like 50. He went back to the bedroom and lay down without even taking off his clothes. On the other side of the city, Isabella walked through the gate of the small house with the money clutched in her pocket. The paint on the wall was peeling. The roof had 2 broken shingles that let water in whenever it rained. She pushed the door open carefully so as not to make a noise. "Bella, is that you?" Her grandmother's voice came from the bedroom. "It's me, Grandma." Isabella dropped her backpack on a kitchen chair and went down the narrow hallway. Grandma Rose was lying down, covered up to her neck despite the stifling heat. "Did you sell everything today?" "I sold it." Isabella sat on the edge of the bed. "One person bought all the flowers at once." "All of them?" "Yeah, a man in a suit. He paid with a big bill." Grandma Rose frowned, worried. "What kind of man?" "A rich one. He had a really nice car." Isabella pulled the card out of her pocket. "He gave me this. He said he'll pay for the doctor for you if we need it." The grandmother took the card with a trembling hand. She looked at the printed name, then at her granddaughter. "You don't know him, Bella. You can't accept help from strangers." "I know, Grandma. But what if we really need it?" Grandma Rose remained silent. The pain in her chest had returned in the afternoon, strong and sharp. She had taken the last pill left, but she knew she wouldn't make it to the end of the week. "We'll figure it out." "How?" The grandmother didn't answer. She handed back the card and closed her eyes, exhausted. Isabella put the card away again and got up. She went to the kitchen, opened the nearly empty fridge, and took out the container with yesterday's rice. She heated it up on the stove, ate standing up, looking out the small window into the darkness. Then she washed the plate, took her notebook out of her backpack, and sat down to do her homework. The kitchen light was flickering. The electric bill was overdue again. She wrote slowly, stopping sometimes to massage her hand, tired from holding flower bouquets all day. When she finished, it was past 11. She put the notebook away, turned off the light, and went into the small room she shared with her grandmother. She lay down on the thin mattress on the floor and pulled up the sheet. Grandma Rose was breathing heavily in the bed next to her. Isabella turned on her side and closed her eyes, but it took her a long time to fall asleep. She lay there thinking about the man in the car, about the way he looked at her, as if he were seeing another person through her, about the card kept in her backpack pocket. about that small, dangerous hope that was starting to grow without her permission. On the other side of the city, Arthur was still awake, staring at the ceiling, with Isabella's face etched in his mind and a question hammering ceaselessly. What if it wasn't a coincidence? Arthur returned the following day. He parked in the same spot at the same time, 6 in the evening. Isabella was there with another bucket of flowers. She saw him get out of the car and narrowed her eyes. "You again, sir?" "Me again." He approached slowly. "Can I buy more flowers?" "I have fewer today, only 10. "Then I'll take all 10. Isabella crossed her arms. "You don't need to do this." "I know." He took out his wallet. "But I want to." She stood staring at him for a few seconds, assessing him. Then she sighed and picked up the bucket. $50. Arthur handed her a $100 bill. "Keep the change again." "No." "Keep it." Isabella put the money away without saying another word. She handed him the flowers and adjusted her backpack, ready to leave. "Have you had dinner yet?" She stopped. "What?" "If you've had dinner." "No." "Do you want to have dinner with me?" "There's a diner right there on the corner." Isabella looked toward the diner, then at him. The suspicion returned to her face instantly. "Why do you want to have dinner with me?" Arthur put his hands in his trouser pockets. "Because I don't like eating alone." "Don't you have a family?" "No." The answer came out too fast. Isabella noticed. "Friends?" "Neither." She remained silent, thinking. Then she looked at the sky, which was starting to darken. "Okay, but I need to let my grandma know." "You can call her." "We don't have a phone at home." Arthur hesitated for a moment. "Then I'll drive you home afterwards, I promise." Isabella nodded, although her body didn't relax. They walked to the diner in silence. Arthur held the door for her. They sat at a booth in the corner, away from the window. The menu had photos of burgers and fries. Isabella looked at the prices and bit her lower lip. "You can order whatever you want." "I don't want anything too expensive." "Price doesn't matter. Order." She ordered a simple burger and a juice. Arthur ordered exactly the same thing. The food arrived quickly. Isabella ate slowly, but with evident hunger. He barely touched his plate. "Your grandmother, is she doing better?" Isabella shook her head while chewing. "She got worse. Yesterday she almost fainted." "Did she go to the doctor?" "There's no way. The appointment at the clinic is for next month." Arthur dropped his burger onto the plate. "What if I pay for a private doctor? A good one? Who can see her tomorrow?" Isabella stopped chewing. She swallowed with difficulty and put the burger down. "Why do you want to help us?" The question came quietly but direct as an arrow. She looked at him without blinking. Arthur took a deep breath. He couldn't tell her the truth. Not yet. He didn't even know if it was the truth. "Because one day someone helped me when I needed it, and I never forgot it." It wasn't a complete lie. Emily had helped him become a decent person when he was just ambition and anger. Isabella continued looking at him, searching for the lie in his eyes. She didn't find it. "Okay, but I'll pay you back. I don't know when, but I will." "No need." "There is a need. For me, there is." Arthur nodded. He understood that arguing would only make things worse. They finished eating. He paid the check and drove her home in his car. The neighborhood was humble, narrow streets, houses stuck one against the other. Isabella asked him to stop 2 houses before hers. "My grandma worries about strangers." "I understand." She got out of the car and leaned in to speak through the open window. "Thanks for dinner. I'll be back tomorrow. With a doctor." Isabella bit her lip. Then she waved and ran through the gate. Arthur stayed there, watching the house light turn on. He waited until she was safely inside before leaving. The next day he returned with a prestigious private cardiologist. Grandma Rose refused at first, but Isabella managed to convince her. The doctor examined her, ordered urgent tests, and prescribed powerful new medications. Arthur paid for everything: the pharmacy, the lab work, the follow-up visit. In the following days, this became a routine. He would show up every late afternoon. He bought all the flowers. He took Isabella to get a snack. They talked about school, about her dreams. "I want to be a teacher," she said one day, playing with the straw in her juice. Or a doctor. I haven't decided yet. Do you like studying? I like it, but sometimes it's hard. I get really tired. Arthur looked at the little girl's hands, calloused from holding flower stems all the time. What if you didn't have to sell flowers every day? Isabella looked up, surprised. What do you mean? What if I gave you a monthly allowance, so you could focus only on your studies? Are you crazy? No, we barely know each other. I know, but I have the means to help, and you deserve a better chance. Isabella went quiet. She shredded the paper napkin into little pieces. I don't know if my grandma will let me. Then I'll talk to her. And he did. Grandma Rose received him in the small living room, seated in her old armchair, with a shawl over her shoulders despite the heat. You are doing a lot for us, sir. I don't understand why. Arthur sat on the sofa opposite her. Isabella stayed in the kitchen, pretending she wasn't listening. I lost my family a long time ago. I have no one. And when I saw Bella, she reminded me of someone very important. Who? He hesitated a second. My wife. She died pregnant. Grandma Rose remained silent. She looked at him with that wisdom of someone who has lived too long not to recognize real pain when it's right in front of them. I'm very sorry for your loss. Thank you. But Bella is not your daughter, sir. You know that, right? The sentence cut the air like a knife. Arthur gripped the arm of the sofa tightly. I know. Then why are you doing this? He looked toward the kitchen, where Isabella was pretending to wash dishes. Then he brought his gaze back to Grandma Rose. Because I can make a difference in her life, and I need this. I need to feel like I'm still good for something. The grandmother studied his face for a long time, then she sighed deeply. All right, but I want to make one thing very clear. She leaned forward, menacing despite her frailty. If you hurt my granddaughter in any way, I will come after you myself, understood? Understood. Grandma Rose relaxed in the armchair. Bella, stop pretending you're not listening and come here. Isabella appeared in the kitchen doorway, her face red with embarrassment. Mr. Sterling is going to help us, and you are going to accept it with politeness and gratitude, but without any weird obligations. Did you hear? Isabella looked at him. Something changed in her face. The suspicion gave way to something else. It wasn't full trust yet, but it was a start. Thank you, she said quietly. Arthur smiled. For the first time in 10 years, smiling didn't hurt. In the following weeks, he brought new school supplies, a sturdy backpack, hardcover notebooks, professional colored pencils. He paid the overdue rent on the house. He bought food and filled the fridge to the brim. Isabella stopped selling flowers. She would come home from school and do her homework. He showed up to help her with math. She taught him how to make bead bracelets while they talked about life. Are you sure you don't want anything in return? She asked him one day, serious, positive. Not even friendship? Arthur looked at her with tenderness. Friendship, yes, I accept that, Isabella smiled. For the first time, a smile without the weight of the world on it. Then it's a deal. Friends. She extended her small hand. He shook it, holding it with care like someone holding something too fragile that might break. And for the first time since Emily died, Arthur felt that maybe there was still a reason to get up every morning. Arthur started picking Isabella up from school. At first, she felt strange. She saw other kids leaving with their parents and didn't know what to call him. He wasn't her dad. He wasn't her uncle. He was just Arthur. Good afternoon, Mr. Sterling, she would say, always formal. Just Arthur is fine. But she could never bring herself to do it. The strict upbringing Grandma Rose had instilled in her wouldn't allow it. He waited for her at the gate, leaning against his luxury car, impeccable in his suit despite the heat. The other parents looked and whispered. Isabella pretended not to see them. One day she came out of class with her shirt stained with green paint. What happened? Art class. The paint splattered. Arthur looked at the green stain on her shoulder. Let's go buy new uniforms. This one still works, but you deserve one without stains. They went to the most exclusive uniform store. He bought 3 blouses, 2 skirts, and a pair of new brand-name sneakers. Isabella tried everything on in the fitting room and came out embarrassed. It's too much. It's right. On the way back, she stayed quiet, looking out the window. Arthur noticed. Are you okay? Yeah, it's just nobody had ever bought me new clothes before. I always used the ones donated by the school. Arthur gripped the steering wheel tight. He said nothing. There was no need to say anything. When they arrived home, Grandma Rose was in the kitchen trying to prepare lunch with difficulty. Arthur went in with her this time. The grandmother no longer protested his presence. Let me help. You don't need to. I want to. Grandma Rose sighed and handed him the wooden spoon. Arthur peeled potatoes, chopped tomatoes, and seasoned the chicken with dexterity. Isabella sat watching, swinging her legs on the chair. You know how to cook. I taught myself. When you live alone, you either learn or you starve. And do you live in a big house? I do. Alone in a big house must be weird. Arthur stopped stirring the pot for a second. He looked at her. It is. After that day, it became routine for him to stay for lunch. Grandma Rose started setting a place for him at the table without asking. They ate all 3 together, talking about school, the news, nothing important. Isabella told anecdotes from her classes. Arthur listened to every word, asked about the subjects, and helped her when she got stuck on an exercise. Math is so hard, she complained one day, chewing on the end of her pencil. Let me see. He pulled the notebook closer. Fractions. He explained slowly, with infinite patience, drawing diagrams on the paper. Isabella understood on the 3rd try. Oh, now it makes sense. You're really smart. You just needed someone to explain it right. She smiled and went back to doing the exercises by herself. Arthur sat watching her write, the tip of her tongue poking out of the corner of her mouth in concentration, exactly the way Emily used to do. The lump in his throat returned. Painful. He stood up abruptly and went to drink some water to hide it. Another day, Isabella taught him how to make colorful bead bracelets. They both sat on the living room floor, with the beads scattered in a shoebox lid. You have to alternate the colors. Look, she showed him slowly. Arthur tried to imitate her, but his large, clumsy fingers didn't help. The string kept slipping away. You're kinda clumsy at this. I'm a total disaster. Isabella laughed. A light, crystal-clear sound, pure childhood. Arthur realized he had never heard her laugh like that before. He tried again, focused. He managed to make a crooked bracelet, with the beads misaligned. Isabella took it and put it on her wrist immediately. It turned out perfect. It's crooked, but I like it. She didn't take it off. She wore that badly made bracelet every day after that, even when Arthur offered to buy her a better one. Weeks flew by. Arthur started arriving earlier and leaving later. He brought books for Isabella. She read aloud while he fixed things around the house. He changed the faucet that was dripping. He fixed the bathroom door that wouldn't close right. He climbed on the roof and replaced the broken shingles that let the rain in. Grandma Rose watched everything from her armchair. You don't have to do all this, sir. I know, but it's good for me. And it was true. It was good for him. For the first time in years, Arthur woke up with a real desire to leave the house. He didn't go to the office every day anymore. He left the company in the hands of his trusted partner. He only handled the strictly urgent matters by phone. The rest of the time he spent with Isabella and Grandma Rose. He took the 2 of them to medical appointments, to the grandmother's tests, to the supermarket, to the park on a Sunday morning. Isabella ran on the playground, while he and Grandma Rose sat on a bench in the shade. You are getting too attached, the grandmother said quietly. Arthur looked at Isabella on the swing, laughing in the wind. I know. If one day you have to leave, it's going to hurt. It's hurt before I can take it. Grandma Rose remained silent. Then she sighed deeply and closed her eyes under the gentle morning sun. That night, Arthur had dinner with them as usual. Grandma Rose made banana bread. They ate at the small table, with mismatched plates, talking about nonsense. After dinner, Isabella yawned widely. Go to sleep, child, said Grandma Rose, "but I want to finish the chapter in my book." "Finish it tomorrow." Isabella pouted but obeyed. She went to brush her teeth. She came back in pajamas, an old set with a faded print. "Good night, Mr. Sterling." "Good night, Bella." She hesitated for a moment in her bedroom doorway. Then she ran back and hugged him quickly before she could think better of it. Arthur froze, not knowing what to do with his arms. Then he raised his hand slowly and stroked the little girl's head. "Sleep well." Isabella let go and ran into her room. Grandma Rose saw everything, but made no comment. Arthur left 10 minutes later. In the car, he sat still with his hands on the wheel, trying to control his agitated breathing. The hug had lasted barely 3 seconds, but it had broken something inside him that had been frozen for a very long time. In the following days, Isabella lost her shyness. She sat near him on the sofa. She asked him to read aloud. She showed him her school drawings with pride. She told him little childhood secrets. "I'm afraid of the dark," she confessed one day, almost whispering. "Why?" "I don't know. I always have been." Arthur bought a soft nightlight and put it in her room. A warm light, enough to chase away the fears. Isabella thanked him without words. She just squeezed his hand for a second before going to sleep. Another day, he was helping her with homework when he noticed she had stopped writing. "What's wrong?" Isabella bit her lip, nervous. "Can I ask you a question?" "Sure." Would you have liked to have children?" The question landed heavy in the room. Arthur put down the pencil. "I almost had a daughter, but she didn't survive." "I'm so sorry." "Thank you." Isabella sat looking at him, thinking deeply. Then she went back to writing, but slower. "If she had survived, do you think she would have liked me?" Arthur felt his chest tighten. "I think so. Very much." Isabella sketched a small smile and continued with her lesson. That night, Grandma Rose called Arthur to talk in the kitchen while Isabella slept. "I need to tell you something." Arthur sat down. The grandmother's tone was different, too serious, grave. "What is it?" Grandma Rose clasped her hands on the table. Her fingers were trembling slightly. "About Bella, about her family." Arthur stopped breathing for an instant. Her mother didn't die in childbirth. She died 3 days later. And her father... She paused. She looked him straight in the eye. Her father never knew she existed. The world went mute. Arthur heard his own heart beating like a drum in his ears. "What do you mean?" "My daughter's family. They hid the girl. They believed the father was guilty of the accident, so they lied to him. They told him the baby had died." Arthur stood up from the chair abruptly. His legs almost gave out. Who was her mother?" Grandma Rose took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "Emily." The name hit him like a physical punch. Arthur grabbed the edge of the table to keep from falling. "Emily Sterling? Emily Costa?" "Yes." The floor vanished. 10 years. 10 years of lies. 10 years without knowing his daughter was alive. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I'm dying, sir." Grandma Rose wiped the tears from her eyes. "And Bella cannot be left alone in this world. She needs her father. She needs you." Arthur sat back down or collapsed. He didn't know anymore. He held his head in his hands, trying to process the information. Isabella, his daughter, this whole time. Does she know? No, I never told her. I thought I was protecting her from the pain. I have to tell her. Not now. Grandma Rose grabbed his arm with surprising strength. "Let her get more used to you. Then we will tell her together." Arthur looked toward the door of the room where Isabella was sleeping. His daughter, alive, grown, right there. "I lost 10 years of her life. I know. And I ask you for forgiveness for that before God. But you can still have the rest of your life with her." Arthur couldn't answer. He got up and walked out of the house without looking back, getting into his car and driving aimlessly. With tears, he didn't try to stop streaming down his face. Everything made sense now. The identical face, the exact age, the mannerisms. Isabella was his. She always had been, and someone had stolen 10 years that he would never get back. Arthur didn't return the next day. Isabella waited for him at the usual time. She sat on the gate, swinging her legs, looking at the empty street. He didn't show up. She went inside and found Grandma Rose in the kitchen, clutching her chest with a grimace of pain. "Grandma, I'm fine, child, just a sharp pain." But she wasn't fine. The grandmother was sweating cold. She was breathing too fast, gasping. "I'm going to call Mr. Sterling." "You don't need to bother him." "Yes, I do." Isabella took the crumpled card she kept like a treasure in her drawer and ran to the neighbor's house. She borrowed the phone. She dialed with a trembling hand. Arthur answered on the third ring. "Bella." "Mr. Sterling, my grandma is feeling really bad." He arrived in 15 minutes flat. He entered and saw Grandma Rose leaning against the wall, pale as wax, holding her left arm. "We're going to the hospital right now." He didn't wait for an answer. He helped the grandmother up, supporting almost all her weight to the car. Isabella got in the back seat, clinging to her grandmother's hand the whole way. At the ER, they took Grandma Rose straight into trauma. Arthur stayed with Isabella in the waiting room. She sat on a hard plastic chair, curled up, hugging her backpack. "Is she going to be okay?" "Yes." Arthur sat beside her. "The doctors here are the best." Isabella didn't answer. She sat looking at her own hands. 2 hours later, a doctor came out with a serious face. Arthur stood up instantly. "The patient had a severe heart attack. We managed to stabilize her, but she needs urgent surgery." "When?" "Tomorrow morning, if possible. Her heart is too weak to wait." "Do the surgery. I will pay whatever is necessary." The doctor nodded and went back inside. Arthur sat down again, running his hand over his tired face. Isabella remained still, looking too small in that chair. "Is she going to die?" The question came quietly, but brutally direct. Arthur looked at her. "Not if the doctors can help it. And if they can't?" He didn't have an answer for that. He just pulled her into a protective hug. Isabella rested her head on his chest and stayed like that without crying, just breathing slowly to his rhythm. They were allowed to visit her at 7 in the evening. Grandma Rose was lying down, connected to many wires and monitors that beeped rhythmically. She opened her eyes when they entered. "Hi, Grandma." Isabella took her hand gently. "Hi, my beauty." The voice came out barely as a weak whisper. Grandma Rose looked at Arthur, who remained standing in the doorway. "Come closer, sir." He approached. He stood on the other side of the bed. "The surgery is early tomorrow," Grandma Rose said. "I need to speak with you. Alone." Isabella looked at her grandmother, then at Arthur. "I can stay." "No, my love. Go outside and drink some water. We'll be right there." Isabella left without fully understanding, but she obeyed. Arthur waited for the door to close. "What do you need to tell me?" Grandma Rose took a deep breath. Every word cost her a titanic effort. "If I don't survive, you have to take care of Bella." "I will take care of her. You can rest easy." "No." She gripped the sheet with her bony fingers. "You didn't understand. You need to take care of her because she is yours." Arthur closed his eyes. He already knew. Since that night in the kitchen, he knew for certain. "I know." "No, you don't know everything." Grandma Rose coughed, making a face of sharp pain. "Emily's family, Sir Robert and Karen, they lied to you on purpose. They believed you were to blame for the accident, that you had been drinking, that you were driving too fast." "I didn't drink. I never—" "I know, sir, but they didn't want to listen. They made you sign papers saying the baby had died. They falsified the certificate. They pushed you away from everything." Arthur gripped the bed rail. His hands turned white from the pressure. "They stole my daughter from me. They stole her, and I allowed it." Grandma Rose wiped her eyes with her free hand. "I was a coward. I was afraid you would sue us, that you would take her away from me. So I stayed quiet, and Bella grew up without a father because of me. You should have told me before." "I know, but I was afraid. And now it's too late to go back." She grabbed his arm with desperation. "You have to promise me one thing." "What?" "If I don't come out of that operating room, you keep her. You register her with your last name. You don't let anyone take her away from you again." Arthur felt his throat close up. "And if you come out okay?" Do we tell her? We tell her, together, but only when she's ready. How will I know when she's ready? You will know. Grandma Rose let him go and closed her eyes, exhausted. You are her father. You will feel it in your heart. Arthur stood motionless, looking at Isabella's grandmother, at his daughter's grandmother, trying to process 10 years of deceit revealed in a few minutes. Why did they do that? Because they lost their daughter, and they needed someone to blame. Grandma Rose opened her eyes once more. But it wasn't your fault, sir. I know that. Emily knew that. And one day Bella will know it too. I lost 10 years with her. I know. And I can never ask you for forgiveness enough for that. Her voice finally broke. But you can still have the rest of your life. Don't waste it. A nurse entered to check the monitors. Arthur left the room, walked past Isabella in the waiting room without stopping, and went straight to the restroom. He locked the door, gripped the sink, and looked at his own reflection in the mirror. 10 years. They stole 10 years of life with his daughter from him. The first steps, the first words, the nights awake with fevers, the birthdays, the school plays. Everything. He punched the sink. His hand hurt. He didn't care. He breathed deeply 3 times. 4, 5. He couldn't fall apart now. Isabella needed him whole, not in pieces. He washed his face with cold water. He dried it with a rough paper towel. He straightened his shirt. When he returned, Isabella was sitting in the same spot, hugging her backpack like a life preserver. Mr. Sterling. Yes? Is Grandma going to be okay? He sat beside her and put his arm around her small, fragile shoulders. She is going to fight, and we are going to be here rooting for her. Isabella leaned against him again. Arthur kissed the top of her head, a gesture that came naturally to him without thinking. His daughter, finally in his arms. But she didn't know yet, and the truth, when it came to light, was going to change everything forever. The surgery took place at 6 in the morning. Arthur and Isabella stayed in the waiting room all night. She slept leaning against him. He didn't sleep a wink. 3 hours later, the surgeon came out. The expression on his face said everything before he spoke a word. We did everything possible, but her heart didn't hold out. I am so sorry. Isabella was awake. She heard everything. She sat looking at the doctor without blinking, as if she didn't understand the language. Did she die? Yes. She didn't feel any pain. She went peacefully. Isabella didn't cry. She stood up slowly and walked to the window. She stood frozen there, looking out at the street, her shoulders tense as violin strings. Arthur approached cautiously. Bella, I want to go home. Okay? He signed the necessary paperwork. He spoke with the hospital social worker. He took Isabella home in absolute silence. When they entered, the house was exactly as they had left it. The grandmother's half-full coffee cup on the table, the shawl on the armchair. As if she were going to walk through the door at any moment, Isabella went to her room and shut the door. Arthur stayed in the living room, lost. He called the funeral home. He organized the wake. He paid for the best service. The funeral was 2 days later. Few people showed up. Some curious neighbors, the priest from the local church, and 3 people Arthur had never seen in person in that house, but whose faces he knew from nightmares. 2 middle-aged men and an older woman. Familiar faces. The same eyes as Emily, her family. Arthur felt the blood freeze in his veins. He stood on the other side of the casket, watching like a hawk. Emily's older brother, Robert, saw Isabella and frowned strangely. He whispered something in his sister's ear. The 2 looked at Arthur with contempt. After the ceremony at the cemetery, Robert approached Isabella. Are you Emily's daughter? Isabella looked at him, confused and scared. Who are you? Your uncle, your mother's brother. She took an instinctive step back. Arthur immediately stepped between the 2. She doesn't know you. Robert looked at him. It took him a few seconds to recognize him under the gray hair and wrinkles. When he recognized him, his face hardened like stone. Arthur. Robert. The name came out cold as ice. Robert looked back and signaled the other 2. They approached, surrounding them. "What are you doing here?" asked Emily's sister, Karen, with venom in her voice. "Taking care of Bella." "Taking care?" Robert took a threatening step forward. "You have no rights over her." "I have every right. The girl just lost her grandmother. She needs real family, her own blood." Arthur took a deep breath, trying to keep his calm for the child's sake. Isabella was listening to everything, hiding behind him. "I am her family." Karen crossed her arms arrogantly. "You are a stranger who appeared out of nowhere. We are her blood. You never showed up before, because Grandma Rose didn't allow it. But now she is gone, and the girl needs proper care. She already has it. With me." Robert stepped closer, invading his personal space. "You don't understand. We are going to file for legal custody. We are taking her to live with us." "You won't." "We will. And you can't do anything to stop it." Arthur felt the rage rising in his chest, hot and dangerous, but he didn't let it explode. He reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and pulled out a folded envelope. "You can try, but you won't succeed." He held out the paper. Robert took it grudgingly, unfolded it, and read. His face changed color. He went pale. "This is a lie. DNA test. Done 3 weeks ago, signed and notarized. Isabella is my biological daughter." Dead silence. Karen snatched the paper from her brother's hand. She read it too. She let it drop to the ground as if it burned. How did you find out?" "Grandma Rose told me everything before she died." Robert took 2 steps back, staggering. "This can't be true. The baby died. We saw the papers." "You falsified the papers." Arthur's voice came out low, but terribly controlled. "You hid my daughter from me for 10 years. "We did the right thing," yelled Karen, losing her composure. "You killed our sister." "I didn't kill anyone. It was a tragic accident." "You were driving! And you think I don't pay for that every damn day of my life?" Arthur took a step forward, making them back away. "Do you think I don't wake up every morning remembering that I survived and she didn't? Do you think it's been easy? You didn't deserve to keep the baby. She was my daughter." His voice finally broke under the pain. "You had no right to take her from me." Robert opened his mouth to reply, but a small, trembling voice cut the air. "Is it true?" Everyone turned in unison. Isabella was standing a few feet away, looking at Arthur with wide eyes. Her face was white as a sheet. "Bella, is it true?" she repeated, shouting this time. "Are you my dad?" Arthur felt the world stop. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, not at the cemetery, not at her grandmother's funeral, not with Emily's toxic family as an audience. But there was no turning back now. "Yes." Isabella shook her head frantically. "No. My mom died in childbirth, and my grandma said he didn't know I existed. Because they lied to me." Arthur pointed at Robert and Karen with fury. "They made me sign a paper saying you had died. They pushed me away from you by force." "Why?" Robert tried to speak, but Arthur didn't give him the chance. "Because they believed I was to blame for the accident that killed your mom, and instead of giving me a chance to be your father, they decided I didn't deserve it." Isabella looked at the uncles and aunts she had never met. Then she brought her gaze back to Arthur. "Did you know? When you found me on the street, did you already know?" "No, I only suspected. You looked too much like your mother. And you did the test without telling me." "I did, because I needed to be sure before telling you. You lied to me. I protected you." Arthur knelt down to be at her eye level. "I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want to mess up your life before knowing the absolute truth." Isabella took a step back, moving away from him. "You are just like them. You hid the truth because you thought it was better for me." "Bella, it's not like that. Everybody lies. My grandma lied. They lied." She pointed at her uncles with disgust. "You lied. Everybody lies." Her voice broke into a heartbreaking sob. The tears she had held back for the last 2 days finally exploded. Arthur tried to get closer, but she backed away again. "Don't touch me. Bella, please. I have no one. No one." She wiped her face with the sleeve of her black shirt. "My grandma died, and I found out my dad was here the whole time, and nobody told me. Nobody." Arthur felt his heart break into 1,000 pieces. He remained kneeling on the dirt, looking up at her. "You're right. I should have told you before. I was wrong." His voice came out low, trembling. "But I didn't lie about everything. Everything I felt for you was true. The desire to take care of you, to protect you, to be near you, that was real." Isabella continued crying, hugging herself, shaking. "I should have been there from the first day of your life, Bella, and they stole that from me. They stole you from me." He looked at Isabella's relatives with contempt, then looked back at her with infinite love. "But I am here now, and I'm never leaving you alone again. How can I trust you?" "You can't." Arthur took a deep breath. "But I will spend the rest of my life proving to you that I deserve it, if you let me." Isabella stood still, shivering, her face wet with tears and pain. Arthur reached out his hand slowly, leaving it suspended in the air between the two of them. "Can you forgive me for taking so long to find you?" She looked at his hand, then at his anguished face. She saw the tears he could no longer hold back. And after a silence that seemed to last for eternal hours, she took a step forward and threw herself into his arms. Arthur held his daughter with desperate strength, buried his face in her hair, and let 10 years of pain out all at once in a sob. Isabella cried on his shoulder, clinging to him, small for so much pain, but strong enough not to give up. Robert and Karen left in silence, defeated, without words, without apologies. It didn't matter anymore. Arthur had his daughter back, and nothing in this world was going to separate them again. Isabella moved in the following week. She walked into the mansion carrying her old backpack and a cardboard box with her grandmother's few belongings. Arthur took the box from her hands. "I'll keep this in a safe place." She nodded without speaking. She was still processing all the change. It still hurt. Arthur showed her the room he had prepared. New bed, large desk, empty bookshelf waiting to be filled with books. He wasn't sure if he had overdone it or if something was missing. "You can change whatever you want, paint, decorate, it's yours." Isabella walked in slowly. She ran her hand over the soft bedspread. She sat on the edge of the bed. She stayed like that for a few seconds, feeling the mattress. "It's really big." "Yeah, but you'll get used to it." She didn't answer. Arthur left and closed the door to give her space. The first few days were strange, full of awkward silences. Isabella would wake up early, forgetting for a second where she was. She would go to the kitchen expecting to find her grandmother and find Arthur trying to make coffee with a complicated machine. She would stand in the doorway, not knowing whether to help or go back to her room. "Good morning? Good morning." Short conversations, polite, distant. Arthur tried to make pancakes on the third day. He burned half of them. Isabella ate them anyway, without complaining. "Sorry, I'm still learning." It's good." She cut another piece. "Grandma used to burn them sometimes too." It was the first time she mentioned Grandma Rose without her voice breaking. Arthur enrolled her in a top-tier private school near the house. Isabella felt strange with the immaculate new uniform, the backpack without patches, the complete supplies. On the first day, he dropped her off at the main gate. "Do you want me to go in with you?" "No need. I'll pick you up at 5. "Okay." She walked in without looking back. Arthur stood frozen, watching her until she disappeared down the hallway. It took him another 10 minutes to start the car. In the evenings they had dinner together. Arthur asked about school with genuine interest. Isabella answered with short sentences. Afterward, she would go to her room to do homework. He cleaned the kitchen alone. But little by little, things started to change. Isabella began leaving her bedroom door open. Arthur would pass by and see her drawing, reading, or listening to music at a low volume. One day, she appeared in the living room with her math notebook in hand. "Can you help me with this?" "Of course." They sat on the leather sofa. Arthur explained. She understood quickly. She didn't go back to her room right away. She stayed there, watching TV with him, the two of them in a silence that was no longer awkward but comfortable. Another day, Arthur came home from work and found her in the kitchen covered in flour. "What are you doing?" Trying to make banana bread. Grandma taught me the recipe, but I never made it by myself. Can I help? Isabella hesitated for a moment. Then she handed him the whisk. You beat. My arm got tired. They did it together, laughing at the flour stains. The bread rose crooked, but it tasted like childhood and home. They ate it sitting at the kitchen island, laughing at how ugly it turned out. It was the first time Isabella laughed heartily since the funeral. Weeks turned into months. Arthur learned to braid hair. It took him 3 tutorials on YouTube and 4 disastrous attempts before managing it without knots. Isabella complained that he pulled her hair, but she let him try again the next day. She taught him how to play video games on the new console. Arthur was terrible, dying at the same obstacle over and over again. Isabella rolled her eyes, but took the controller and passed the level for him. You suck at this. I'm a total disaster. They laughed together until their stomachs hurt. One Saturday afternoon, Isabella walked into his home office. Can I ask you a question? Always. What was my mom like? Arthur stopped typing on his computer. He looked at her standing in the doorway, nervously playing with the hem of her shirt. Sit here. She sat down. Arthur opened the locked drawer and took out the photos he kept. He showed them to her one by one. He told her stories. How he met Emily, how she laughed out loud, how she danced in the rain without a care in the world, how she made him less serious and bitter. She would have adored you, he said quietly, with nostalgia. You think so? I am absolutely certain. Isabella took a photo of her pregnant mother. She stood staring at it. I wish I had met her. She is in you, Bella, in how strong you are, in the way you never give up. Isabella wiped her eyes slowly. Then she got up and hugged him. Thank you. Why? For telling me, for not forgetting her. Arthur held his daughter tight against his chest. I will never forget. 2 months later, Arthur created a charity foundation, the Emily Sterling Institute, comprehensive aid for children in situations of extreme vulnerability, education, health, decent housing. Isabella helped design the logo, a white rose, like the ones she used to sell on the street. Do you think she would like it? She would love it. The foundation grew rapidly thanks to Arthur's resources. It helped dozens of families in the first year. Isabella went with him on field visits. She saw children living exactly how she had lived. She helped distribute school supplies, boxes of food, blankets for the cold. Thank you for doing this, she told him in the car on the way home. The idea was yours, the flowers. But you made it real. Arthur looked at her in the rearview mirror with pride. We made it real. Isabella smiled. At home, the routine became light and happy. Dinners at the big table, conversations about the day, movies and popcorn on the sofa, silly fights about who forgot to cap the toothpaste. One day, Isabella was helping him dry the dishes when she stopped. Can I call you Dad? Arthur almost dropped the porcelain plate. He gripped the edge of the sink. You can call me whatever you want, but do you want me to call you that? He turned to her, his eyes shining. More than anything in this world. Isabella smiled, a small, sweet smile. Then okay, Dad. The word came out shy, testing the sound, but it came out. Arthur pulled her into a hug and held her like someone holding something they almost lost forever in the abyss. I love you, honey. It was the first time he said it out loud. Isabella squeezed tighter. I love you too. The huge, empty, silent mansion that Arthur had inhabited like a ghost for 10 years finally became a home. There was light in the windows until late, sound of doors closing, laughter echoing in the long hallways. There was life, and for the first time since Emily left, Arthur woke up in the morning without that unbearable weight on his chest, because he wasn't alone anymore. 8 years later, Arthur adjusted his tie in front of the mirror for the 3rd time in a row. His hands were shaking a little. He looked in the car's rearview mirror and took a deep breath. Are you nervous? Isabella asked from the back seat, laughing. No. Yes, you are. You only mess with your tie when you're nervous. She was 18 now. long, shiny hair, the same radiant smile as her mother, but the eyes, those were unmistakably his. "It's just that it's your high school graduation. It's important." "Dad, you're more nervous than me." The word Dad still made his chest tighten in a wonderful way. 8 years hearing her call him Dad, and it still seemed like a new miracle every day. They arrived at the school. Isabella got out, adjusted her graduation gown. Arthur stood watching her adjust her cap, beautiful and all grown up. "You look beautiful." "Thanks." She walked over and gave him a loud kiss on the cheek. "Ceremony starts in 20 minutes. Don't forget to record." "I won't forget." She ran into the building. Arthur stood frozen, watching her disappear among the sea of other graduates. He remembered the little girl selling flowers on the dirty sidewalk, the first tense hug, the first words calling him Dad. He entered the auditorium and sat in the reserved front row. He recorded absolutely everything: her speech as valedictorian, the handing of the diploma, the huge smile she gave him when she saw him applauding, standing up with tears in his eyes. Afterward, in the parking lot, she came running and threw herself into his arms, like when she was a child. "I did it! You did it! I always knew you would." They went back home. There was a surprise party waiting for her. High school friends, beloved teachers, foundation employees. Isabella pretended to be surprised, but Arthur knew she suspected it. In the middle of the party, he went up to his office and brought down a special box he kept under lock and key. He came back and called Isabella to the balcony. "What is this?" "Open it." She opened the box, slowly. Inside was a letter, handwritten. The paper was yellowed with time. "What is it?" "Your mum wrote it, when she was pregnant with you. I found it among the things her family had kept in an old box." Arthur swallowed hard. She knew there was a risk, that she might not survive, and she wanted to leave you something. Isabella held the letter with trembling hands and reverent care. She read in silence, tears falling freely without her noticing. The letter spoke of pure love, of unshakable hope, of the dreams Emily had for her daughter. It ended with, "Be strong, my love, be kind, and never forget that you were wanted and loved from the first second of your existence." Isabella folded the letter delicately and hugged her father. "Thank you for keeping this for me. I will always keep everything, everything about her, everything about you." Later, when the party ended and the last guests left, Isabella and Arthur sat in the living room in peace. She rested her head on his shoulder. "Dad? Do you regret it? Taking 10 years to find me?" Arthur remained silent. He thought of the empty, cold nights, of the lost years without seeing her grow, of the agonizing pain of not knowing. "I regret not fighting more in the beginning, not questioning the lies, but I don't regret the time we've had. Because every day with you is worth all the years I lost." Isabella squeezed his hand affectionately. "I don't regret it either, because if it had been different, maybe we wouldn't be who we are today." On the wall opposite there were 3 framed photos, one of Emily, one of the 2 of them together, and one of all 3, a digital montage Isabella had made, combining a photo of her mother with a recent one of them. The family the accident tried to destroy. The family destiny rebuilt in a crooked, painful but real and beautiful way. Arthur looked at the pictures and felt something he hadn't felt in years: absolute peace. Life had taken away the opportunity to be there from the beginning. It had stolen the first steps, the first babbling words, the first years of discovery. But it had given him a second chance. An unlikely meeting on a random sidewalk, a face that looked like a ghost from the past. A little girl selling flowers who changed his entire universe, and he hadn't wasted it. "I love you, daughter." "I love you too, Dad." Outside, the city went on with its indifferent course. People living their rushed lives, carrying their secret pains, looking for their place in the world. And inside that house that had once been empty of soul, now full of light and laughter, 2 hearts that had almost lost each other forever had finally found their way back to one another. Because in the end, family isn't just about the blood you share or the lost time that doesn't return. It's about choosing to stay, about never giving up, about transforming the deepest pain into something worth living for. It's about finding who was always yours, even when the whole world conspired to keep you separate. And sometimes all we need is a second chance, and enough courage to never let it slip away again.